Welcome to this video, round 1 of the candidates tournament in Khanty-Mansisk, and we're looking at the game Mamedyarov against Topalov. We have the two players competing in the first round that qualified through the Grand Prix series, a series of strong GM tournaments where players got points per tournament, and over a span of 4, 5, 6 tournaments, I'm not quite sure, the best two players scoring the most points were Topalov and Mamedyarov, so those two play in the first round. Mamedyarov playing d4, and that's his usual opening move. He can play e4, but he mostly is a d4 player and has pretty good results with it, so this was to be expected. And Topalov plays the Slav, which is not a surprise. He's played the Slav for a long time, often going to semi-Slav waters. But Topalov has a wide opening repertoire. He also could have played the King's Indian or the Grunfeld or whatever. He's got many things that he can play. Okay. Knight bd2. That's a slight, the surprise is the wrong word, because Mamedyarov has played this move before, so Topalov actually could have predicted this exact position to appear with some degree of certainty. But okay, you never know if the opponent is repeating the moves that he had played in earlier games. He might come up with something new early. Okay, knight bd2. What's the idea of the move? Yeah, it's a very apparent idea. You want to cover this c4 point. The pawn is hanging. Black might take it. Of course, if you look at the main move. I'm actually pressing the button to go back one move, and it's doing nothing here. What is happening? Okay, I'm not sure what the software was doing there. If you play a move like that, which is the absolute main line, black can take, which introduces the classical Slav, and then you need to invest some time to get the pawn back. Like e3, b5 is not getting the pawn back so easy. You'll get it back later, but need to spend time on a4. Main move is a4 here, and it's entirely different to knight bd2. After knight bd2, you're absolutely sure that black will not capture early, because this is obviously very helpful for white. The knight gets a good post on c4, looking at important squares, and it frees up the bishop again, which is the main drawback, of course, of knight bd2. It blocks the c1 bishop, and therefore that's not a super active move, but it's an interesting move in regards to some specific continuations. If you think about what I said just 2 minutes ago, that Topalov plays the semi-Slav, then e6 here is a move that black should think twice about, because of two things. White might try queen c2, intending to go e4 in one go, not like e3 and then e4, but in one move. This is quite nice for white. And here there also is the move g3, which probably will transpose to a Catalan, and where black has played a very early move c6, and not sure that you want to do that. I mean, you can play the closed Catalan, but it's not a walk in the park. So e6 is probably not so great here. It's not losing or anything, but it does not really seem to be the most precise way to play. Black can play bishop f5, which is in fact what I recommended or will recommend when it will be released in a video for the ICC, which I produce in German language, where I present a repertoire for black based on the Slav. Bishop f5 is the main move. One point is that after queen b3, this is hanging, the move, white plays this first, I forgot about that, to attack the bishop. And if it retreats now, white has the tricky idea queen b3 to answer queen b6, which is a mistake, with queen h3. A very funny line, threatening queen c8, almost with a mate, but it will win the important b7 pawn. Yeah, and the second idea is, of course, that white is able to take on g6 and damage black's pawn structure. He cannot recapture with the h-pawn, and something like that is pretty terrible, really, for black. So that's an interesting idea, one of the ideas, but okay, black has better ways to play. Can go here, for example, and be okay. That's my recommendation. Grandmaster Avruk in his recent book has bishop e6, also with an okay game. Topalov is doing something else, and I think what he's playing is actually a good idea. g6, which white answers with e3, and my suspicion is actually that after this game white might go for g3 more, because this is also a possible idea which transposes to the fianchetto Grünfeld. Okay, white is committed to this early knight d2, obviously, but it still probably has more bite than what was played in the game. As mentioned, there was e3 played. And, somehow the software is very slow here. e3, bishop to g7, and bishop to g7, and here Mamedyarov played bishop to d3, and this has been played a number of times. I think I have more than 100 games in my database, something like that. I'm not sure. It's doing strange things, this software here. Maybe I need to restart it. Alright, I have restarted the software. I'm back. Hope that it is that it's running more smoothly now. Okay, as mentioned, this has been played quite a number of times, and normally black has played castles here, castles, and here there were many moves played, bishop g4, for example. One idea that white might play is, if black plays a somewhat nothing move like knight to d7, white might play b4 and continue to push on the queen side without running much risks. Especially this bishop is not doing so much, looking at the d4 pawn. This is the old way to play, but knight d7 is a bit passive, but I just want to show the general idea. Black is in comparison relatively passive, but Topalov now played the move c5, which is maybe surprising to some, because, well, he has played c6 just a couple of moves ago, but it's not really mattering so much. It looks like it loses a tempo, but that's not the way to approach such a position, or any position in general. You need to judge what's the best move in the position, and okay, it's on c6, but if, for example, if you imagine a position where you have the pawn on c7, yeah, let's just for argument's sake do that. Yeah, I put this back. Yeah. And well, black would play c5 in this position if you ask him what move would you want to play. So it doesn't matter if he had played c6 or not. It's just important to do the right thing. So this means I need to load this again. So he played c5, and the good thing about this, it immediately attacks the center and makes sure that this bishop actually has got something to do, combining pressure on this d4 pawn. And I actually believe that this is an instant equalizer for black. If you look at what's happening here, we can start with this move. Is this an idea for white? In fact, it isn't. Black has many possible answers. You can even take with the queen, but you can also look at this move. But here maybe a e4. Okay, so probably not. But black can also just take here. This is no problem at all. He will always get this pawn back. In the game, he took on c5, And after knight a6, black will get the pawn back. There's very little doubt about that. White cannot cover it with a pawn, and he tried to cover it with a knight b3. This feels very logical. The knight on d2 is obstructing, or was obstructing, this bishop anyway, so this makes lots of sense. My first idea here was, why can black not take here? In fact, I think this does not equalize completely. You have this position. Black will get it back here, of course. But if you look at this type of position, white is maybe slightly better. He's better developed, and he will get activity with this bishop here. So this is probably not completely equal. What Topalov did, I think, is just better. He took on c4. Bishop takes.
Check.
And now we have this trade on d1, which is very important to note, that black is playing c5 before both sides have castled. So you actually get this position with the king on d1, which is very important. And the whole point is that now knight e4 is coming, with f2 hanging, with a fork on the rook and the king. So white's move is almost forced. He played king e2, and now black took on c5. So black got the pawn back. We had this trade, and now we can take stock how to assess this position. Yeah, black has managed with this quick c5 to get rid of the pawns on the d file and the d file, on the c and the d file. And this means it's very important that in the upcoming moves, both sides will fight for those two files. But what you also need to note is, look at this excellent bishop on g7. This is very typical for the Grunfeld, or if you imagine this with colors reversed for the Catalan, that the bishop on g7 is such a strong piece. It always exerts pressure on this pawn and makes it difficult for white to get this bishop out quickly. So I think this looks very, very decent for black. He's very close to being equal, if not already. I think what Mamedyarov is doing is the best way to play. He played bishop to b5 check, which is moving the same piece again, yes, but it serves a concrete purpose. This check lets black decide what to do. If, the king move looks very strange, so bishop d7 is a very natural move. I mean, it's not terrible to play this one, but it's not like losing or anything. But it feels better to develop your c8 bishop. And now he captured.
Check.
And Topalov actually decided to recapture with the king. Surprising at first, but he wants to keep it on c5, this knight, and does not want to retreat it. It might lead to similar position. He took here.
Check.
And after the check, went back to e8. So white has gained a bit of time with this bishop b5 move. He got the rook into the game early, and this is actually what makes the position about equal, I think. White is somewhat quicker on the files, but black has this strong bishop on g7. He had rook b1, yes. It's always this pawn. So white lends some support to it. And now rook c8. Yeah. The c-file, certainly a good place for the rook. Bishop d2, you need to develop it. And knight to e4. Yeah, very, very logical play. Bishop to b4. Yeah, it's not that white necessarily wants to keep the bishop at all costs. He wants to make sure that this has some activity on black's position, some pressure. Played f5 now, which I like. You open up the f7 square for the king so that you can connect rooks. It was difficult otherwise to manage that, so a good move. And now Mamedyarov played knight to e1. And again, a move that I like. The knight here, is it really doing so much? Those squares are protected, and it's not clear that knight d4 is ever going to lead to anything. And of course, this is a threat now. White needs to react to it, and so he just covers it. And the knight has a good future on d3 actually. I mean, good future. It's not brilliant on d3, but it can be maybe improved from d3. One on f3, it's really doing not much. Okay, a5. This is a debatable move, I think. I'm not sure. The thing is that just in a couple of moves, Topalov gets into some trouble, and I don't think that this should happen. I feel like this is just very equal, and he shouldn't really be in any trouble. So I was asking where the problem was, and maybe it is really a5. I mean, this is a very active move and typical for Topalov. He's not the kind of person to just sit on his position and improve it slowly and so on. He always seeks for a way forward, which makes its style attractive to watch, but it's sometimes simply not a successful style. Against the right opponent, he might run into some bad counter blows, or he weakens his position while being active. And this might be one of those cases. If you look at this, the whole idea is, of course, purely dynamics. The piece is attacked. You cannot really avoid the capture on a5. Let's say a move like this. It's just ugly. So white takes, and this was Topalov's idea. He played rook a8 now. Rook to d5. Okay, covering it from the side. Played b6. Yeah, that's an interesting way to play. If white now takes, then this is instantly okay, because you get b2 back the next move. So he went back to b4 and now took on a2. So a5 was a tactical idea to get the rook from c8, where it was looking at the covered c2 square, to a2. So it looks like, at first sight, like a good rook activation. But if you look at this in a bit more detail, like here, knight d3 was played, this knight is nicely positioned to cover this weakness. And black still has a weakness, or even two. He's got e7 as a potential weakness. And this is more important, b6. The b6 pawn only is on b6 because black has played a5. After a5 and the capture, there was this tactical necessity to play b6, and now you have two weaknesses here, and it feels like black needs to be precise here. It's not so easy to play, and in fact, if we look at this, king f7 and rook c1, white is playing actively as well. He wants to enter here. So note that bishop b2, rook c2 is very embarrassing. We'll lose a piece. So black cannot do that. And white has good influence now on those two important files. So maybe it's really a5. And maybe we should go back to this position once we have finished the main analysis, because I feel like here it already is a slightly tricky position for black.
Check.
Look at this. White really has pressure now. He's got e5 for his knight. b6 is attacked by the rook. This already feels tricky. He went back to a7, probably because the rook is rook c7. This kind of ideas, it was too much. And here maybe is the point for white to look for an improvement. Mamedyarov played bishop a3, which is it has some logic, of course. It keeps b2 nicely protected and prepares further action. But I think it has a simple, not a simple one, but a tactical drawback that immediately helps black, and we see that later. What the computer suggests here is just rook c6 attacking the pawn. The point is, or the important thing is, of course, that white cannot take because of this one with a monster fork. So white wants to do it like that, keeping d5 protected and then maybe capture on b6 the next move. And here I don't see a completely satisfactory reply for black. I think he will lose the pawn, and he can try to fight, of course. It's not like just instantly losing, but it feels like black has a hard time to save this. He will at least suffer being a pawn down. For example, something like that, knight to d7. Yeah, takes. And then after, oops, not that. After covering the b2 pawn, we will take here next. Black can try for counterplay, that's clear. Something like
check.
This can be played. And it's not like an easy win or something, but white at least has won a pawn and can try to push. In the game he decided for something else, and I don't think that this really is doing much. Oops. Hit the wrong button there. He had a good defense after bishop a3. Black played rook a5, and now up from this point now I think both sides play the absolute best moves. Yeah, it looks at this knight, which is unprotected and which prevents white from just grabbing the piece. So what should white do? It's actually, yeah, it's what Mamedyarov did is probably the nicest looking way to force the draw, but I think the worst is already over. The alternative to rook c7, which is what he played, was to capture, but of course here black can also take with the pawn, and I don't really see black ever losing this position. It should be alright. You can go to d5, for example, play e6 if you want to cover c7, e6 only if the knight is attacked. Computer only gives white a symbolic edge here, so probably this is alright. He played rook c7 now, Mamedyarov. Okay, this hangs the rook, but it has an idea. After the capture, Topalov captured it. There was
check.
rook e7 check. And king d8. If black goes to f8, we need to look at all this. Rook
check.
a7 check. So this will win the game easily. Must go here. Yeah, and now white of course has a ton of checks, and he has the draw in hand. And this is what happened actually. He played knight to f7 check.
Check.
And, he can also go here,
check.
but note that this
check.
This is not working, as c7 gets now controlled by black's knight. White simply cannot play for a win here. He can, what he can try is he can take on g7. He
check.
actually gave those checks and then took on g7. This is possible to continue for a moment. Note that if white captures on b5, there's rook takes a3, very important. And it all gets exchanged now with the draw to come. So rook g7. And now rook d5. And this is again an important move. Topalov plays the best defensive moves here. This introduces ideas like rook takes a3 to get the knight. And here Mamedyarov ended the game by giving this series of checks. Black, of course, cannot avoid it.
Checkmate.
I mean, he can avoid the draw, but not in a way that will suit him. So at the end, a draw, which is probably a relatively fair result. I think Mamedyarov had something. He maybe could have exploited the weaknesses with this rook c6 idea. And I quickly want to go back to the a5 position. What is it that black probably should play to avoid any sort of problem? I mean, he can really just sit tight, I believe. Maybe, yeah, well, king f7 is not really helping because you get there. Maybe this is an idea to, or bishop d6 even. If you just want a dead equal position, you can do that. Something like that. And it's completely equal. Can easily agree a draw. Yeah, the rooks will come off as well, almost completely symmetrical. Yeah, somewhere around here I guess he had ways to simply kill the game off to a dead draw, but he played this as usual in the most active fashion and maybe got into slight trouble. Okay, so draw. Good or decent start for both players. Thanks for watching.